call the meeting to order. So the first item on the agenda is, does anyone have any declarations of interest?
Sorry, through you, Madam Chair, I might defer to the clerk. I do see her hand raised, but I'm just not quite sure that we have a quorum yet to continue the meeting. If we might, I think we will. I think we're getting close. If we just give folks maybe perhaps a minute to hop on.
Sure. Sorry about that, Sarah.
No worries at all.
I think I see 5 here.
I see 1, 2, 3, 4, unfortunately, and we do need the 5th.
Okay, so I'm seeing Jacob, Brooke, Andrew, Catherine.
I think you're getting our Pams confused, maybe. Pamela is not able to join us today, unfortunately.
I see Joy as well.
Yeah, you're right. I just can't count.
We're almost there.
We're very close. There we go. Councillor Matrosovs is with us, and with that, we have our 5. Madam Chair, I will hand the meeting back over to you, but please do feel free to call on me at your discretion during the meeting if you'd like me to introduce any of the motions.
Okay, thanks, Sarah. Good afternoon, everyone, again. And so we did call the meeting to order, and the first item on the agenda is declaration of interest. Does anybody have any declaration of interest? Andrew? No?
No.
Okay. All right, and delegations? There are no delegations. So the next item on the agenda is the City of Owen Sound is doing a presentation with regards to their community improvement plan. And I will have Sarah, if you wouldn't mind reading the motion.
Absolutely. Through you, Madam Chair, the motion attached to this item is that in consideration of the verbal presentation regarding the City of Owen Sound's community improvement plan, the Grey County Joint Accessibility Advisory Committee receives the report for review and comment.
And can I have someone move the motion, please? Andrea, thank you. And a seconder.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Andrew. And I will now hand it over to Pamela Coulter.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Looking at the agenda today, I'll keep this fairly brief, but I just wanted to share with other communities, and I know we have a presentation later in the agenda about another CIP. I'll just maybe try to share my screen here. Are you seeing the screen called Accessibility Improvement Grant?
Through you, Madam Chair, yes, we are, Pam.
Okay, super. So the city has a CIP. It applies citywide. The accessibility grant is a grant program. It also applies citywide. And the real goal of the program is really just to promote improvements to properties for the purpose of enhancing accessibility. So it's in the overall CIP, and then hopefully you can see on your screen, then there's an individual guideline that provides a bit more detail about the program area. So the entire city is eligible for outdoor accessibility improvements. And then within the River District and within designated properties, there's also eligibility around interior improvements. And the program speaks to what types of things would be eligible. So exterior things like exterior paths of travel, ramps, exterior lighting, the creation of accessible parking spaces, and then interior elevating devices, washrooms, those type of improvements. And lastly, I'll just share, it's a pretty simple application. So the applicant, if it's different than the owner, the authorization of the owner to apply, the type of application they're applying for, and then a description of that work. The grant is $10,000 up to $10,000, 50% of the eligible costs. And sometimes improvements happen over time. So we don't prohibit somebody from applying, doing perhaps an accessible door opener this year, and then next year applying in the River District and doing an accessible washroom or something. So the whole program, all the documents I've just shared are available on the city's website, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Claudia?
Oh, I clicked on the hand because I wasn't sure if anybody could see or hear me. I had massive problems getting into this meeting, so apologies. I just wanted to know if I'm here or not.
Yeah, thank you, Claudia. We see you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, does anyone have any questions or comments for Pam? No? Okay, then I'll ask for a vote on the motion. All in favor?
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
Jacob?
yes.
Thank you. Andriette's got her hand up. Okay, thank you. Motion carried. Pamela, thank you very much for your presentation.
And just to confirm, I'm not sharing my screen anymore. Is that
That's correct.
okay? Super.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, the second item on the agenda is the Town of Hanover Community Trail Extension and Signage, and that will be Laura Christian presenting to us, but I will have Sarah read the motion first.
Through you, Madam Chair, the motion attached to this item is that the report from the Town of Hanover regarding the community trail extension and signage be received, and that Grey County Joint Accessibility Advisory Committee provide review and comment.
Okay, can I have someone to move the motion, please?
I can do it. It's Brooke.
Pardon?
I can do it. It's Brooke.
Okay, thank you, Brooke. I didn't quite
No
hear you
problem.
well. Sorry about that. And can I have a seconder for the motion?
Yes.
Thank you, Andrew. Okay, and I'll hand it over to you, Laura.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, and thank you very much for the committee for having me today. So the report before you this afternoon is relating to the community trail project within the Town of Hanover. So the primary objective of this project is really to provide an extension or the continuity of an existing trail system that is within the Town of Hanover. Right now, due to a new housing development, the trail really comes abruptly to an end. It dead ends, essentially. And what the town is proposing to do is to extend the trail, and there's going to be two sections. On page, I guess that would be page 2 of my report, there is a little diagram there that outlines both section A and section B. Specifically, what I'm bringing forward today relates primarily to that section B. That's the parcel of land that the Town of Hanover currently owns. The section A is still owned by the developer, but certainly if there's any comments or input received from the committee today relating to section A, we certainly can share that with the developer. But if you see, my report does primarily focus more so along that section B. Section A will be an extension of the trail that's going to be through a sidewalk. And then section B, the section we're talking about today, is through a small kind of little bit of a wooded area. We've done a survey of that area, and we are looking at the width that we're going to be within that AODA compliance, that we will exceed that at 1,000 millimeters. In fact, we are proposing that it would be hopefully even double, like 2,000, like 2 meters. So that is our intention. There might be a couple of pinch points. That's what we've kind of nicknamed it, where it narrows a little bit, and so we might not be able to fully get that 2,000 millimeters through the entire section there. But that is what we're hoping to do. The construction materials, we aren't anticipating at this time that we're going to need any boardwalk sections. So the trail will be constructed with granular A as a base, and then the top layer will be kind of that limestone screening or stone dust, as people are commonly known as. The slope, we're looking to not exceed that 4%. The signage, I've provided a number of examples of signage, and we're really kind of amping the signage up a little bit. Like, we're adding "You Are Here" on all of our signage, our trailhead signage, as well as our trail marker signs. Trailhead signs will be ideally located at any entrance into our community trail system. And then along the community trail, there is trail marker signs. Those will provide directional information to users, as well as it provides a location for emergency response. So for example, if there was an emergency on the trail and you were to call 911, 911 will be asking for, do you have the closest trail marker sign? So the signed trail marker signs have also been provided for your review as well. Also, we are proposing the section of the trail that we're looking to redo, that section B, is 440 meters in length. We are looking if there is an opportunity to install a bench along that section for rest. That will certainly be considered, but we truly won't know what type of clearance we have until the trail construction happens. So that is another consideration that we are looking at. I think that provides a summary of my report. I'm happy to take any questions at this time.
Does anyone have any questions or comments for Laura?
Well, I'm raising my hand.
Oh, sorry, Claudia. I don't see your, oh, I didn't see your hand.
Okay.
You're lit up though.
Yeah, I was wondering, is there such a thing as a disability approved bench, something that people who have a hard time like getting up, for example, from sitting down, special handles or anything like that?
Of a bench?
Yeah.
Is it a possibility if we could include handles on the bench? Is that the question, Claudia?
The question is, I don't know if there are accessible benches, which might sound weird, but like a person with a walker, if they walk along there and they want to sit down on the bench and then they can't get up anymore. That's why I'm asking, are there benches that can help disabled people walk?
Well, that's something I certainly would have to do some research on it relating to fully accessible benches. Certainly there are options to have benches that do have armrests on it, which could be beneficial. You know, that's certainly something we can consider, but you know, I haven't done any research to say if there is a fully accessible bench. In fact, perhaps someone in this group would be better equipped to answer that question.
Okay, and I had another question. The money for these benches, can there be fundraisers? So businesses have their name on the bench donated by or so to save money? Or
Yeah,
is that beyond the scope of me asking?
Yeah, absolutely. We would encourage any type of fundraising for town benches, and it's a good way to recognize donations as well.
Okay.
Does anyone else have any comments or questions?
Through you, Madam Chair, I believe Kathy Nuno has her hand raised.
Kathy? Sorry.
Hi, I have a follow-up to Claudia's comment. I do have a book put out by CSA for accessible design for the built environment. I will check that and see if it has a reference in there about accessibility for benches. And while we were talking about it, I did look up online. So I do have a little bit of this and that. So I'll gather up that information and send it out to the group after the meeting. And then my other thing is I just wanted to comment on the signage. I really want to express my gratitude that it's, what do they call it? Title case instead of block caps, because I see a lot of signs in block caps, and having the capital just at the beginning of the word is much more accessible. And I appreciate the care that's gone into the creation of these signs.
Yes, Claudia.
On the signage, is there Braille on it? So you never know, a person who's blind, maybe the person who walks with them falls down or whatever. Like, how would a blind person who finds themselves left by themselves get out of there?
Kathy, you.
Yeah. Thank you. Through you, Madam Chair. I don't think that this is probably the best use for Braille. Just logistically, having Braille on there, probably it would never get used.
You're probably right. What about like like a compass, just so that you can no compasses that move, but just where you see north, south, east, west, maybe?
Right. So I do see a
Right?
map there, and I believe the map is north is the top. Am I right?
Yes.
It does show
Is it
north.
raised?
Yeah.
About the trail turns, where the trail turns, you'd be better off to have like a pole with you'd rather have. How do I say this? My tongue is tied right now. You'd be better off to have like a post where the trailer is to turn for a blind person that tells where the turn is. For somebody like me that would use the trail.
So through you, Madam Chair,
Yes.
like you're thinking about something that you're going to come across to say, oh, I need to turn here because going forward isn't a good choice.
Just to turn left or right or whatever it might be, for a cane or something to find, or even like texture change. I don't know what.
Okay, so just help me walk through this. How do you know when you get to this post if you're supposed to turn left or right? What's the indicator?
Well, let me step back a little bit now. There could be a poster still, but when I'm thinking some sort of texture change to signify the turn, like I know, and this doesn't maybe that same thing as a trail, but I know with sidewalks, some sidewalks in some towns would have cuts of the curb, but I wonder what you do for trails.
Okay, that's a really good question. Through you, Chair. I think maybe can we do some research on that and see if we can find out if there's a good choice?
Yeah, I totally agree, Kathy. I think there's a little bit more research that needs to go into it.
Okay. So I can help with that, but if Hanover wants to be the lead on that.
Yes, absolutely.
When I have a moment, I have a comment.
Yes, Brooke.
So if you're using your cane, most people will, it's called shorelining. So if I'm walking along a trail and I know there's going to be a turn coming up to the left or to the right that I'm going to want, and I do this on sidewalks as well. then I shoreline the grass, and then you'll feel a difference between the gravel for the path and the grass. So then you'll know that your turn is right there. So as long as there's a difference in texture between the sides of the trail and the trail itself, then even like guide dog using, if I'm walking on a trail, well, it's gravel, so it makes noise under my feet. And then I know when I hit the grass because, again, it doesn't make the same sort of noise. So I know to move over. Like if my dog decides to kind of do her own thing. I'm not sure. So I'm not really sure that a post or pole is going to help. As for the signs, though, I think there does need to be some sort of texture, whether the writing is raised, like the more important information. So it's like textured writing where you can feel the letters, or there needs to be Braille. Otherwise, we are leaving people like me or anybody else who doesn't see like any writing. Because then I'm stuck having to always have a sighted person with me.
So Brooke, I have a question. Would raised lettering, would that assist?
It can work as long as it's not a lot of writing I have to read. So you'll obviously have to remember like what letters you've just read.
Mm-hmm.
But it does work because I know in Guelph at the bus station, some of their writing is just raised, like the letters all raised. So like if I'm looking for post number 5, for example, I can see on this map and I can feel for the number 5 and then have an idea of where, and then I don't remember what the texture is for where I am at the whatever. So it tells you like you're here and then you need to go this way to go to that.
Okay, it's a good question. Good.
Because not all blind people do read Braille, like I do, but not all do.
That's right, and that's why I wondered about the raised lettering would suffice instead of Braille. And then also with the trail itself, where you say, the difference in, just the texture of the trail. If there's something there that defines the difference between the trail and off the trail.
Yeah, so whether there's grass off the trail and then or wood chips off the trail, as long as there's something different between the edge of the trail and the trail itself. Yeah,
good point. Thank you for that. Claudia, you have a question?
We could potentially talk to the National Institute of the Blind.
Yeah, I mean, you could certainly approach them, just to see typically what they're using.
They're kind of the specialists in that, right?
Yeah. And Brooke, do you have another comment on that? I just see your hand still up.
Oh, sorry, I didn't realize. But my comment is that they may be the specialists, but they're not. There's always a saying with the disability community, not for us, without us. So I think saying that we should go to the CNIB when, like, for example, Andrew and I, or you could even go to if there's a way to find other blind people in the area of Hanover, then we should be connecting with our communities and not just going to CNIB and thinking, okay, well, they're the experts. Like if we didn't have a bunch of ideas, then maybe, but I think that in this situation, there's not really a lot that you can do. Know what I mean?
And certainly under the AODA, under the public spaces, there is, I believe, information in there on trails. I don't know, Laura, if you consulted with the, public spaces under the AODA or not.
I can connect with my person that I used to work alongside when I was part of their board in Guelph. I can ask them. We have a lot of trails in Guelph, so they've done a lot of that research. Okay. There's like a ton of different public trails. So I can ask them if there's a specific booklet people can look for that is helpful.
Yeah, that would be great.
Might be available to everyone.
Yeah, that would be great. And then certainly we could pass that on to Laura through the committee. Okay. Does anyone have any other comments or questions for Laura? No? Okay, I'll ask for a vote on the motion. All in favor?
Yes.
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 Thank you. I see Andrea's hand up. All right, motion carried. And I just want to say thank you, Laura, for presenting to us today.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairperson and committee.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is the Town of Hanover road reconstruction, 3rd Street from the 11th to the 12th Avenue and 12th Avenue south of 4th Street. And that will be Ron Cooper presenting it to us. But I'll ask Sarah to read the motion first.
Through you, Madam Chair, the motion attached to this item is that report 3rd Street from 11th Street to 12th Avenue and 12th Ave South to 4th Street be received, and that the Grey County Joint Accessibility Advisory Committee provide input related to accessibility for the sidewalk replacement.
Okay, and can I have someone move the motion? Anyone? Andrea, thank you. And a seconder? Claudia, thank you. And I will now hand this over to Ron Cooper.
Well, thank you. Thanks for allowing me to provide some information on this street reconstruction project that we have. It's adjacent to the Don View School in Hanover. Both of these sections on the 3rd Street from 11th to 12th Avenue, as well as on the 12th Avenue leading north-south up to the school. They have existing sidewalks. Through the reconstruction project that we're doing, we're increasing the width of the sidewalks from 1.2 meters to 1.5 meters. We're working at some other enhancements through this project. At the intersections, we're looking at including tactile plates, as well as we're at the entrance to Don View School, which is at the southerly end of our sidewalk extension. That connection point there, the street as it stands right now is actually quite wide, doesn't have curb and gutter, therefore doesn't delineate the traveled area for the vehicles like what it should. We're looking at narrowing that in, putting curb and gutter as a defined area for the vehicles. Then we're providing boulevard and then the sidewalk. So it will provide much safer in terms of setbacks from the sidewalk in the area. There's actually an existing crossing there, which is on a controlled stop sign, which is at 3rd Street and 12th Avenue. We're going to be enhancing that. We'll have tactile plates from both approaches leading into that street. We're going to be adding pavement markings and requirements to meet the Accessibility for Ontario's Disabilities Act. And I have attached an overview map of the area showing the section in relation to the Don View School, and just highlighted some improvements which we're looking at through this project, which I've just briefly went through right now. And I would be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Okay, Claudia, you have a question?
Yeah, are there any traffic lights? There aren't, right?
No traffic lights, but it is a controlled stop sign at the 12th Avenue and 3rd Street.
Okay.
Okay, does anyone else have any questions or comments?
Is this
Andrew?
going, it's just down this street, or is it going all the way up to 9th?
This area construction is just on the 3rd Street section from 11th to 12th Avenue. And we're starting actually south of 4th Street in the area where the curb and gutter currently stops, and continuing that profile leading up to Donview School.
Okay. I'm familiar with the area because I've walked down there before. And the curbs
Okay.
aren't very good as it stands right now.
So Ron, the existing, what is existing? Is it barrier curbs or is it mountable curbs?
Existing right now actually is a narrower sidewalk, 1.2 wide, and actually there is no curbing available in the area. So the reconstruction is going to introduce curbs, and that actually will be on the sides. So that's actually going to be a barrier curb.
Okay. I just know from an accessibility point of view, and my experience with this over the years is that mountable curbs are much more accessible than barrier curbs. Unfortunately, what it does is it leads the individual, if they're using a power chair or a scooter or whatever, it leads them to basically coming to the end of a driveway in order to exit off the sidewalk if they want to get off the sidewalk. I just know that, you know, mountable curbs are preferred. But I think because of the design, it's eliminating that likely.
Well, I would say that if you're coming along 12th Avenue, the Safe Crossing Place, which is at 3rd Street, that even though it is mountable curbs, it is ramped down there. So it will provide safe access at that intersection. If people were using any of the properties for access coming out, either along 12th Avenue or on 3rd Street, at all the driveways, the curbs do ramp down. So there is accessibility actually at all of the residents, plus at that controlled intersection.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. Kathy, you have a question?
Hi, not to get all legislatively on you guys, but in the regs, 80.29 says when you're constructing a new or redeveloping existing exterior paths of travel, that you need to consult on the design and placement of rest areas. So, did you want to talk about that at all, Ron, or ask the committee about that?
Well, I could ask. Just what I would say is on 3rd Street, fairly short section running there between 11th to 12th Avenue, and there would be accessibility rest areas once you get from 4th Avenue south to the entrance to the Donview School. So we're not talking great distances on either one of these stretches that we're looking at providing the sidewalk improvements to.
Okay, so through you, Chair. So maybe is your question to the committee something like, do you think because of the scope of this project that rest areas may not be necessary along this area?
That's a fair question, yes.
Okay. Does anyone else have any questions or comments for Ron? Andrew, Brooke? No?
I don't really know the area, so I can't really comment.
Okay, thanks, Brooke. Claudia?
Yeah, me again. Wouldn't it be safer in a schooling area to have a traffic light rather than a stop sign? And then the traffic light could be equipped with, I don't know what they call it, a beeper that tells you how many more seconds you have to cross the road. Like they have that in Owen Sound.
I know in some areas they do have that with traffic lights. That I think a lot of what determines that is in terms of volume of traffic. What I would say in this area is we have Donview School. It's on a dead end street. on the 12th Avenue and even access running in the other direction, which is east-west along 3rd Street. It only runs between 11th and 12th Avenue, so it's in a very direct area that would not have any outside or through traffic coming through this area. It would just be traffic, school buses coming in, and maybe some parents coming in that would be picking up their children.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions? No? Okay, can I get a vote in favor of the motion? All in favor? Brooke, Andrew? Brooke, Andrew?
I don't know. I'm unsure. I don't really, but I guess I don't know the area very well, so I feel uncomfortable voting for that. Because I feel like there's so many, well, that's not necessary in that discussion.
Okay, so are you not voting on the motion then, Brooke?
I prefer not to.
Okay. And Andrew?
I'll put a vote on this.
You will vote on it? I'm
Yeah.
sorry. Okay, thank you. Okay, I guess the vote is, oh, Jacob, did you vote? Okay. So I guess the vote would be not well, it can be carried because it's a 4-1 vote, Sarah?
Through you,
Did I get
Madam
that
Chair,
number
yes.
right? Okay,
I would consider the motion carried.
okay,
And just to address any members' concerns, the motion is strictly that the report be received and that the municipality receive your comments today. So I would not necessarily, I would hope that that addresses any kind of concerns about the motion at hand.
yeah, great, thanks for that clarification.
Before we proceed, Madam Chair, I do see that the clerk has her hand raised.
Oh, sorry, I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. Sarah actually covered, but I was going to say as well, the motion on the floor was to receive and take back the committee's comments and feedback. So staff are taking notes as we go through. So please do continue to provide that feedback, and but the vote was to receive and note that the discussion has been had.
Okay, great, thank you. And Ron, thank you very much for being here today. Okay. Okay, the next item on the agenda is the Township of Georgian Bluffs. Again, a community improvement plan. Marilyn Cameron and Laura Lee Spencer and JL Richards. And I will have Sarah read the motion first.
Through you, Madam Chair, the motion attached to this item is that in consideration of the verbal presentation regarding the Township of Georgian Bluffs Community Improvement Plan, the Grey County Joint Accessibility Advisory Committee received the report for review and comment.
Okay, and can I have someone move the motion, please?
I can do
Claudia?
it. It's Brooke.
Oh,
Yeah, moving the motion.
okay, and
I can
Brooke?
second it.
Okay, thanks, Brooke. Okay, thank you. All right, and I will hand it over.
Well, first of all, I'd like to thank you, through you, Madam Chair, to the committee for allowing us to provide this information to you today. Laura Lee Spencer, Senior Planner with JL Richards and Associates. My counterpart, Marilyn Cameron, also a planner with JL Richards, here to present with you the Georgian Bluffs Community Improvement Plan for comment and discussion. We will get into the components of it in greater detail as we go through. What is a community improvement plan will be defined. Georgian Bluffs Community Improvement Plan, the project in general, what we've heard at this point in time from public and the stakeholders, and provide an opportunity for question and feedback following that. At this point in time, I'm going to hand it over and allow Marilyn to describe in further detail. If you have any questions at any point in time, we'll perhaps make the presentation and then save those questions following what components of the community improvement plan that you may require further clarification upon. Marilyn, over to you. Thank you.
Great, thank you. So Laura Lee's taken us through our agenda, so I'll skip to the third slide. So we can see based on just the agenda today that the committee is already likely very familiar with some community improvement plans in the county. So apologies if this is a bit redundant for you, but I will start with a bit of a refresher on what a community improvement plan is, and then we'll go into what the project for Georgian Bluffs looks like and what feedback we've heard so far. So a community improvement plan, or a CIP as we will refer to it, is a program that a municipality can offer to provide financial incentives through things like loans, rebates, or grants to property owners or tenants. And they do this for the purpose of some kind of community improvement. So they're trying to incentivize property owners to alter or improve their properties in some way. And this is all under Section 28 of the Planning Act. And interestingly enough, this is one of the only ways that a municipality can provide funds directly to a property owner or an individual under the Municipal Act and the Planning Act. So a community improvement can take many forms under the Planning Act. Typically, what we see is activities like improvements for visual appeal, repairing or maintaining infrastructure or buildings, housing. This is one area where accessibility can come into play. So maintenance or improvement for physical accessibility here. Affordable and attainable housing is one area that a municipality can incentivize. Rehabilitating land is also common. So, for example, previous industrial lands, which are known as brownfield lands, can be converted or altered to be more useful economically. On-farm diversified uses is a term to refer to any activities like commercial or industrial type activities that can add economic opportunity secondary to a farming operation. So that's things like market stands or petting zoos or pick your own fruit kind of activities. Heritage preservation is another opportunity. So buildings, heritage buildings, or cultural areas of importance can be preserved. And then energy efficiency is another big popular opportunity there to encourage improvement that way. But essentially what all of these have in common is there's some kind of building or land improvement that can spur economic growth or spur on more investment in the community. So in the creation of a CIP, essentially what it will result in is a document which has plan objectives and goals. This is essentially what will determine what improvement looks like for the CIP program and what the township wants to see. Then there's also a community improvement project area. This is something that council designates by bylaw, and it might include a specific area of town. I believe in our earlier example from Owen Sound, they specified differences in what can be done in certain parts of the city, or it could apply to the whole municipality. And then the CIP also goes over the incentives and the programs that the types of funds and the projects that they can fund. So all the different possible outcomes of the CIP. And then there's usually a section on implementation and how to monitor the plan. So this could be how to apply, eligibility, terms and conditions, and how the township's going to keep track of success over time. So just going over some of those incentives and what you can do with the CIP in a little more detail. Some common or sort of interesting and new examples are to encourage things like additional dwelling units. So if someone's thinking of putting a backyard tiny home or turning their basement into an apartment, the CIP could potentially provide funds to help them do that. Similarly, buildings, we might want to incentivize, for example, more density in certain areas. So adding or encouraging buildings with more than 4 units. So for example, if someone was going to build a duplex or a triplex, this would encourage them to build 4 units instead of 2 or 3. Energy efficiency, this outcome can encourage people to add solar panels, for example, or do landscaping programs that encourage less impact on the environment, that kind of thing. On-farm diversified uses, I talked a little bit about before, but essentially just other economic opportunities on a farm, an existing farm. Accessibility improvements, so this is the physical improvements to a building or lands. And the Owen Sound example earlier this evening provided some good examples of what that can look like in a CIP program. Building improvements generally, again, this is typically external to the building. And then conversions of buildings. So an industrial use, for example, could be converted to a commercial use if that's more appropriate or if there's a business opportunity there. And then last but not least is public art and activities that encourage people to come to a certain location and participate and shop in that area. This can be for residents or tourists as well. But public art is a great way to incentivize people to bring a buzz to a certain area. So those are just a few examples of what a CIP can do that the Township of Georgian Bluffs is considering. And the township has not yet had a CIP in place. This is new for the township. So the current project is going to take place in 3 stages. We're just completing our first stage, which is background analysis. So this involved a review of other CIPs in the county and across Ontario. And it also involved community engagement, which I'll talk more about in just a minute. I'll go into some detail there. And then the current, or after this meeting, we'll be going into developing our draft plan in stage 2. So this will be coming up with the plan and what those incentives look like. That will then be shared with our CIP committee and with council. And after that, it will be shared publicly to get more public feedback on it. And then that will lead us to our final stage, which is a final CIP document and other tools to implement it, the bylaws that go along with it, tools that the township can use to monitor. All of those will go to council to be adopted. So I want to go over the engagement we've done so far and a couple of the findings we've heard and in a little more detail here. So there is a web page for the CIP for Georgian Bluffs. And I'm so silly, I haven't included it on this slide, but it is, I can tell you right now, it's www.engagegb/CIP. And I'd be happy to follow up through you, Chair, or through the clerk to make sure that that gets shared. Or if you go to the township's website, you can search using their search function and it should be fairly easy to find. But so that website has a little more information, and that's also where an online survey was hosted through January and February. And we heard from 35 people through that survey, all sorts of folks, residents, property owners, tenants, and then we also did 3 focus groups to get to some specific topic areas of interest. So one of those focus groups was with the farming community and farm owners and operators. So they provided very specific feedback on those types of incentives. Another focus group was with the business and development community. So some small businesses, some developers, and we got feedback on issues related to housing and business and those sorts of things. And then the third group was with a broader community sector. So this was nonprofits, advocacy groups, and sort of arts and culture. And the public were also invited to attend that because it was a virtual meeting. So we could open it up a little more broadly. And then in April, we had a workshop with our CIP committee and with council. And in that session, we shared with them what we'd heard so far, and we helped them to come up with a series of priorities for the CIP, what those incentives should look like, and what kind of outcomes committee and council want to see. So essentially, these were the priorities that we heard from the engagement and from council and committee in that workshop. So there's 5 overall priorities. The first is housing. So specifically, there was a need for and an interest in incentivizing affordable housing and just more housing options. The second, and these are in no particular order, but the second on my list here is agricultural business improvement. So supporting the farming community through opportunities to improve their business or give them new ways to draw in income sources. So very much like those on-farm diversified uses that we mentioned earlier. And then accessibility was another priority. So this mostly came out in the form of physical accessibility for getting around, but then lighting also came up in our community engagement as well. Environmental sustainability was another priority area. And this came up in terms of energy efficiency, but also in terms of things like naturalization and using native species and encouraging those kinds of behaviors. And then just general business support, helping businesses attract consumers, helping to attract more businesses to the community, and giving them opportunities to grow their business, so to scale it up. And then one other thing I want to mention that came up in the discussions about accessibility were in the actual, not just the incentives of the CIP, but how the CIP would actually be used and administered. So there was interest from the community in terms of making sure it was easy to use and available in multiple formats, like online and paper, that there was a single point of contact, so one person that would be available and consistent to ask and answer questions, and that timely decision making was clear, and that there was good communication with the public and with applicants, and that kind of ease of use as well. So that's what we heard from the public so far. As I mentioned, our next step is to take this draft CIP, or is to create a draft CIP and share that with the township, with council and our committee, and then get more public feedback. So at this stage, we're still very much soliciting your feedback. I think in comparison to what you saw in the earlier agenda item, we're not quite at the stage that Owen Sound is at with the incentives laid out. We're still a little bit ahead of that stage. So lots of room for feedback at this point. Once there is a draft CIP, we would also be interested to know if and how you might like to be consulted on the actual document to provide input then. But those are our next steps. And I would like to share also, maybe before we jump into questions, I should just say the CIP, the topics that came out of that engagement are community priorities. Many of them come out of challenges that a CIP won't necessarily be able to solve. We won't be able to solve all of the township's housing issues through this program overnight, right? But the value of a CIP is to provide a little bit of incentive to encourage the property owners or tenants or community groups that are already working on those things and are looking for support to do it. So any sort of feedback that you can provide that helps us understand what are the little things and what are the little things that would help remove barriers to people getting towards those kinds of improvement, that's great feedback to have at this stage. And I'll hand it over now for questions and any feedback. Thanks.
Thank you, Marilyn. Claudia, you have a question?
Yeah. If there's public art, how do you make public art accessible? I'm a little bit frazzled about that one.
Thank you. Through you, Chair. I can answer that. Yeah, the public art opportunity would be an incentive to create public art generally. So this might be an incentive to encourage people to do a mural in town. It wouldn't necessarily be an improvement to accessibility for the township overall, but one of the ways we would make sure that that was not exclusive is that, for example, the criteria for eligibility, if you wanted to receive a fund to create some form of public art, you'd be required to do it in a place that is publicly accessible. So you'd be required to do the art in a place that way anyone in the community would be able to participate or view it. And we want to make sure that for all of the incentives, and not just the public art, that they will not be exclusive if they are to have some kind of community benefit.
You could actually start a project where you invite maybe at least 50% of the public artists to be disabled artists.
Through you, Chair, I like that idea. Thank you.
Does anyone else have any questions or comments for Marilyn? I see Niall, you is in the chat of the presentation there.
Through you, Madam Chair, I believe he was sharing the link mentioned during the presentation, which we will be sure to circulate following the meeting.
Okay, thank you. No other questions? No? Thank you, Marilyn, for your
Through you, Madam
presentation.
Chair. Apologies, before you call the question, I believe Claudia has her hand.
Oh,
yeah,
Claudia?
me again.
Oh, sorry.
Shut up, can I?
So that's okay, Claudia. No worries.
Just a few things to consider. I wonder what affordable housing, what the cost to the renter would be considered affordable. And also, when buildings are built, how do we prevent birds flying into the windows? Because the bird population has massively gone down, and many of them die by flying into people's windows. And the third issue I have is with when people build single housing, single homes, dwellings, the new fad seems to be that they have at least 30 to 40 outdoor lights around the house, which is massively disturbing to neighbors and to wildlife and even to the plants. You can see it from like hundreds of meters away. And I've seen these new buildings in all kind of places, like down the street from me. I live on a forest road. The night sky lights up with those people where I can see from the street two sides of the house, and they have on those two sides 25 halogen lights. And I think that's an environmental hazard. So those are just considerations that came to mind.
Okay, thank you, Claudia.
Yeah, I would be happy to respond to Claudia that those are tremendously great comments with respect to that component. Not all of them can fall into the parameters of a community improvement plan. However, there are definite considerations. So dark sky compliance, absolutely a consideration. With respect to that, it also relates back to your comment related to birds and windows, et cetera. So those two kind of fall into the same thing. Certainly in terms of accessibility, in terms of, additional residential units, unfortunately, we can't control what is the built form. We'd love to, but we can't. So those components, we can promote and enhance and put that out there for affordable housing. There's legislation right before the standing committee this week and next talking about affordable and attainable housing. So some of that's going to come out in legislation prior to us putting forward the community improvement plan. So maybe we'll have some more clarity at that point. But at this time, these are all considerations. Not all of them I can cover under this project, but certainly very good points and definitely being taken into consideration. So appreciate the comments. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Laura Lee. Okay. If there's no other questions or comments, I will call for a vote on the motion. All in favor of the motion? Jacob, Claudia?
Yes.
And Andrew? Andrew? Are you there, Andrew?
Through you, Madam Chair, perhaps he stepped away for a moment.
Yeah, I
but
think so.
I do believe I saw a majority favor.
Okay, okay. So motion carried. Thank you. Thank you again for your presentation.
Through you, Madam Chair, thank you for
you.
having us. Much appreciated.
You're more than welcome. Okay, the next item is the Township of Georgian Bluffs. Again, a presentation. This is with regards to strategic plan refresh and engagement opportunities, and Niall Lobley and Haley Thompson. And I'll ask Sarah to read the motion.
Through you, Madam Chair, the motion attached to this item is that in consideration of the verbal presentation regarding the Township of Georgian Bluffs strategic plan, refresh and engagement opportunities, the Grey County Joint Accessibility Advisory Committee receives the report for review and comment.
Okay, and can I have someone move the motion, please? Andrea, and a seconder, Claudia?
Yes.
Great. And I will hand it over to Niall and Haley.
Good afternoon, and through you, Chair. Thank you very much for giving us some time on the agenda today. I don't think Haley was able to join us today, but she is sitting just down the corridor from me, and I'm delighted to be here today on behalf of the township and the small team that's taken forward our strategic planning process over the course of the next few months. We're moving to quite a quick timeline. We're hoping to have a new strategic plan in place at the township before the end of the year, and so over the next couple of months we are doing as much engagement and reaching out and connecting with community as possible. And I'm delighted to introduce Jody Ball, who's working with us on this process, and JC Consulting, who will be J Consulting. I always get two C's in there for some bizarre reason, Jody, sorry. But Jody will be working with us over the next few months, helping us to pull together our engagement plan and our engagement efforts. And so we're in the very early stages of rolling that out. And in fact, you're one of the first groups that we've got a chance to speak to about this. In fact, I think, unless I'm mistaken, Jody, you might actually be getting a chance to speak about this before we even have a conversation with members of council on a one-on-one basis. So, so you're right at the very, very first stage, and delighted to be bringing this before you. So Jody's going to run through some of the engagement steps we're going to go through, and there's lots of opportunities after today. So we're looking for some feedback today for folks that might have that feedback. We're looking for opportunities that you might be aware of for us to reach out to seek feedback, and obviously we'll be sharing some advice as to how you can continue the conversation with us over the next few months as we work towards our new strategic plan. So I will leave it at that. I will hand over to Jody to take you through the next steps. Thank you for having us.
Thank you, Niall. And good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to be with you today. As Niall said, my name's Jody. I'm a planner, I'm a facilitator, and I'm excited to be working with the Township of Georgian Bluffs on this strategic plan refresh and Vision 2050. So Madam Chair and committee members, thank you for giving us some time on your agenda today. And as Niall said, we're just going to take a few minutes really to introduce the project, and then to hopefully have a brief conversation, discussion, and hear some initial thoughts that you might have. So as the township embarks on this visioning and strategic planning process, as Niall said, it is a fairly ambitious time frame. But a big part of the initiative is, and I know a big part that Niall is keen on, is the community engagement component. So implementing a fairly robust engagement strategy so that we can hear directly from residents and community members on their ideas, experiences, and vision for the community over the next 5 years for that strategic plan, but also over the longer term, and thinking about that Vision 2050. So my role in this project is to support the township with the planning and facilitating of some of those engagement activities. Part of the activities that we will be doing, or the initiatives that we're thinking of, is a telephone survey, an online survey. We're also going to be hosting several community workshops coming up later in May and into June. We're going to have some conversations with members of council. We will also be participating at the Connect and Collaborate Engagement Day on June 18th in the township, and we have some other online engagement activities through the Engage GB platform that are being led by the township. And I don't think our page is up yet, but it will be on that Engage GB platform soon. And all the feedback is really meant to help inform and guide the strategic plan. So it's a 2025 to 2030 strategic plan and Vision 2050. So as I said, the township's really keen on hearing directly from residents and community members on that vision and the direction that the township's going to take over the next few years. So I wanted to share that information with you, let you know that there are opportunities coming up to be engaged. I would encourage you to do the survey, to come out to one of the workshops if that's of interest to you. So we'll find a way of getting that survey link to you. If you can help us share and spread the word, that's also really, really helpful for our work. And again, that Engage GB page will be up soon. So with that said, I'm just wondering if time permitting, we can have a brief conversation with members. I think some of the things that we're looking for your input on at the moment is just any comments or initial thoughts around the engagement process and how we embark on that. And then the other piece is really around maybe what opportunities come to mind for us to be thinking out to ensure that we do have a strategic plan that creates an inclusive and welcoming and accessible township. So if it's okay with you, Madam Chair, if we can open it up to hear from members and get any initial thoughts, as I said, on the engagement process itself, and also on what to be thinking about as we develop this plan.
Okay, does anyone have any comments or questions for Jody? Claudia.
Me again. There's tourism in Georgian Bluffs, right?
Is there tourism? Yes, I think so.
So that should be part of considering a plan, right? How to attract tourists without damaging the integrity of the environment and the people who live there. Like Wasaga Beach has turned into a mess, right? Too many tourists, car races and drugs and noise, like teenagers partying all night and stuff like that. Like there should be maybe a sort of a healthy balance somehow.
Thanks, Claudia. I won't comment on Wasaga Beach, but I hear your comments about tourism and environmental sustainability and consciousness.
Okay. Anyone else have any comments or questions for Jody?
So I might just briefly add, if I may, through you, Madam Chair, sorry.
Yes.
We are really keen to understand from anyone that's, got contacts, particularly contacts of folks that are in and around, visit the township, folks that have got family in the township, folks that, even folks that drive through the township from now and again, how can we best make sure that we're reaching folks and connecting with folks? And we're quite happy to take any feedback you might pass on to the chair or to the clerk after the fact. Contact details, email addresses, phone numbers of people that you think we should make a deliberate attempt to reach out to. Any of that stuff, groups that you're aware of that might be operating in the area. We obviously are coming to a Grey County Accessibility Advisory Committee. We don't have an accessibility advisory group within the township itself. So any contacts you have to community that we can lean on, we're keen to cast the net as far and wide as we can.
Okay, great. Thanks, Niall. Claudia.
Are electrical vehicle charging stations a consideration?
Through you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Claudia. Yes, I think everything's up for consideration at this point.
Okay.
Okay. Any other comments or questions? Okay, I will call for a vote on the motion. Can I have someone move the motion? Jacob? And a seconder? Claudia?
I can do it.
Oh, Brooke? Okay, thanks, Brooke.
No problem.
Okay. Motion carried. I just want to say thanks to Niall and Haley for being here today. And certainly, you know, through the committee, if anyone does have any comments or questions further from today's meeting, we will make sure that they are passed on to you.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
You're welcome. Okay, the next item on the agenda is the Grey County, sorry, just a sec here. I think I missed the all in favor to the motion.
Through you, Madam Chair, I did see a majority of hands raised, and so I think that was a carried vote.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Sarah. Okay, so the next item on the agenda is Grey County, a presentation with regards to short-term shelter program with Josh Gibson and Anne Marie Shaw. And I will ask Sarah to present the motion.
Through you, Madam Chair, the motion in connection with this item is that in consideration of the verbal presentation regarding the township, I'm sorry, I'm one behind still, that in consideration of the verbal presentation regarding Grey County's short-term shelter program, the Grey County Joint Accessibility Advisory Committee receives the report for review and comment.
Okay, and can I have someone move the motion, please?
I
Andrea,
see through you,
thank
Madam
you.
Chair. Yes.
And
Councillor.
Brooke, are you okay to second it,
Yep.
Brooke?
Yep,
Thank
I can
you.
second it.
Okay, thank you. And I will now hand it over to Josh and Anne Marie.
Thank you, Chair. Unfortunately, you're stuck with just me this afternoon. Anne Marie is unable to make the presentation, but hopefully I can provide you some information on property that we've acquired and share just some information about our program today. I just want to verify quickly before I get too far ahead of myself that you can see the slide deck that I've presented. Perfect.
Yes.
These nods,
Yes.
excellent. And if at any point in time you wanted me to talk faster, slower, quieter, louder, anybody, please feel free to put your hand up and let me know. Okay. So this presentation will be about the short-term transitional housing site. Grey County Housing had been pursuing the purchase of a facility to assist with our short-term accommodations for individuals and families experiencing homelessness. I just want to briefly touch on why we look to make that change. The biggest one being cost. So previously we operated the program through private motel ownership, which averaged with damages and maintenance expenses at a cost of about $120 per night. And it was just unsustainable given our need for an increased capacity. The provincial and federal government haven't provided us with much extra in terms of homelessness funding. So we needed to find ways to stretch the dollars that we do receive, which we're very grateful for, in order to go further and increase the amount of capacity that we could have within our program. We also identify that the needs of individuals are much higher. We need to be on site supporting people and helping them to find long-term accommodations. In our previous program, we were touching base with people, but we weren't situated there. And with the acquisition of a property, we were able to have office space on site to be more available, to help people get to appointments and to help them connect with referral services and have future success once they exit the program. Our demand had been up year over year, So when I first started in this role, which was in 2018, we spent in it on an annual period about $150,000 to $200,000 on emergency accommodations for individuals and families, and that peaked during COVID to around 1.3 million in a 12-month period. So just based on those figures, you can hear how the demand absolutely skyrocketed for services, and we had to try and react to that. So a quick review of the service that we do provide. We have centralized our service to try and provide ease of access. So staff on site at the property. The property is located at 713 9th Avenue East. It was formerly referred to as the Diamond Motel. We call it short-term transitional housing by Grey County. And there is some new signage that we'll go over that's being installed. Anybody that is entering into that short-term transitional housing opportunity does attend the Grey County Administration Building for intake. So they would come to the Grey County Administration Building, which I know has been presented to this committee in the past around accessibility and access. We cover transportation where required to facilitate that intake process. And if that's not an option for people, we can go to them as well. We try and go to the drop-in services that are provided in the area, such as the SOS markets, and provide services to people where they're at. Once somebody's gone through an intake, then they would move over to the 713 location. And if there was any barriers at all involved in that, then we can find other accommodations. And I'm going to touch on that more in detail later in the presentation, but I just want to ensure that the service that we're providing is more individualized for the person. So if there's any reason why the 713 location does not work for somebody, then staff are doing everything they can to find other accommodations, whether it be a mobile accessible, fully accessible hotel room, for example, if somebody's using a wheelchair or other assistive device, like those types of things are in consideration with our intake program. So we wanted to provide higher level of service with the motel. So by providing people with their own room, their own bathroom, a little kitchenette area, compared to other shelter services, we feel that there's a higher level of dignity. There's no common areas. You can have your own space, but still be connected with staff, which is important. We operate on the premise that everyone has an individualized housing plan, and we try and meet with people and identify what the next steps are to work towards that exit from homelessness as best we can. And then we provide those daily check-in supports. It is a short-term program, so typically when we intake someone into the program, they're provided with a 2-week period where we're identifying needs, we're learning about their housing history, we're trying to identify action items, and then with the help of staff, we're trying to work on those action items. It is a participatory program, so we do expect there to be action on the part of the participant, and if there is no action, then unfortunately, it's not a program that's the right fit at that time, and we do have to ask them to end their stay. The maximum length of time that someone can stay in the program is 6 weeks. And I always add into any presentation I'm doing, just because it wasn't the right fit at that point in time, or if something goes wrong within the program, people are never asked to leave forever. There's always other chances and other opportunities. Just might not be the right time that they've accessed the program that week, and we can try again at another time. So the property does consist of 22 self-contained rooms of varying size. And then attached to that, there is a former owner's dwelling, which we've converted to office space and a staff area. Has a large parking lot with ample exterior space, and it is very close in proximity to the Grey County Administration Building, which was important to us because if people need to get to the administration building to access the kiosks or their OW worker or try and get some support in other ways, that we were close to the admin building. In terms of initial improvements, we did take possession of the property on February 16th, and we launched our program and actually started moving people into the rooms just a short 3 weeks later. So on March 6th, we were moving people into the rooms there, and I think by March 11th, it was full. So our maintenance staff did a phenomenal job in getting the property ready to go, and staff were kind of all hands on deck to make that happen. Initial improvements, we increased the security of the rooms by installing electronic keypads. We tried to make it as easy for folks as possible. They get to pick their own door code when they intake into the program. So whatever you'd like can be your door code, and you don't have to worry about losing a key. You don't have to worry about losing a fob and those types of things. So we're trying to make it as easy as possible. We installed a new security camera system for safety and security. We do provide Wi-Fi connections. Every single room has its own Wi-Fi hub, so the connection is quite strong and people are able to access to use their phones and do housing searches from within their rooms. We installed some new exterior LED lighting for visibility around the curbing areas and any steps that are at the exterior of the building for safety. And we do have new signage on site that I alluded to earlier that's just waiting for installation. So our intake process, which I kind of covered initially, is that we do it either virtually or we do it at the administration building. And the reason that we do that is because the administration building is a fully accessible opportunity for people to visit. We can meet with people and we can try and identify. So then if at that time somebody is bringing forward something that would be a barrier to require accommodation, then we can work on that together, right? And that's where I always say it's a very individualized approach to trying to support people that are experiencing homelessness. So I do want to go through just a couple of some photos that I've taken of some of the rooms, just some examples. I'm not going to go through every single one, but we do have a very large family room that has 2 queen beds, and then that couch. There's a photo on your screen, 2 photos on your screen, sorry. On the left side, you'll see a queen size bed. And then there's a bit of a half wall for a bit of privacy. And then on the right side of that half wall, we have a pull-out couch that provides some extra sleeping capacity. So within this room, there is 2 queen size beds and that pull-out couch. There's also a little kitchen area where you can find a table and chairs. And then there's actually a full-size fridge in this room. We had a family that had some pretty severe dietary restrictions with some children. We happened to have an extra fridge that the owner had left behind, so we actually moved it into this room to try and make it easier on the family with their dietary needs. So not pictured, just kind of behind where I took the photos from, is a full-size fridge for this family room. And then there is a washroom. Every washroom currently in the motel is a 4-piece washroom with a tub, which is something that we'll be looking at improving upon in a few of the rooms. So then I've also provided 3 photos on your screen as an example of a double room. Many of the rooms on site are 2 double beds, and then they also have that kitchenette with a bar fridge, or a smaller fridge and a microwave. There's also a sink and just like a little area where you could prepare some small food options. And then we provide TVs with kind of streaming options to all of the rooms as well. And then I've provided just a look at a single room as well. So this is just, it is a queen bed with a little couch sitting area. All the rooms are generally speaking the same size. We're operating the rooms as the owner had sort of left them. We will be making some changes around the bed sizes to try and standardize things, because when we're getting into sheets and washing and doing laundry and sorting, it would just be much easier if all the beds were the exact same size throughout the motel. So as we run into damages and we need replacements, we are replacing with a standardized size. that's not too high, not too low. We're trying to find a good ground for that as well. I've included a shot of the exterior of the building. So on the south-facing side of the building, there was a large 20-foot by 4-foot sign that said Diamond Motel. That's been taken down since I took this photo last week. And then that's where our new sign is going to be installed. And the new sign is the same size, so it's quite a large sign that can be seen from a distance. And it says Grey County short-term transitional housing, just with the address in the corner and a Grey County logo. So just trying to not bring a lot of attention to the building either, because we don't want people to feel stigmatized by staying there. We want to be as supportive as possible and try and keep the site presentable as well. I should have updated this photo. Yesterday, a new door was installed. So next to the fire extinguisher here in this photo, you can see a French door set that was removed, and we installed a new 36-inch door here. This room will eventually be a common space for people to access computers to assist with their housing searches. So we'll be adding some gradient lippage with like a 4% grade into this room. I might get some of the terminology incorrect because I'm not a contractor or the person that does the tenders, so I apologize in advance if I don't get the technical terms correct. But it's a large door, and then we'll do slopage for anything that's required. And that was installed yesterday, so photo not yet updated. And then the office space, this is how you access the main house to get into where the staff areas are. Just another shot of the exterior. Like I said earlier, kind of ample parking. Many of the individuals staying on property do not have vehicles that they're operating. So it's usually just staff parking there, which means, 3 to 4 vehicles on average. And I think on site we have upwards of 30 parking spots. So no shortage of opportunity for parking. I included this photo because I am going to talk about some future plans for the property. And the 2 doors that you see directly ahead of this parking spot would be 2 units that will be looking at providing future improvements around accessibility, because the current sidewalk curbing is flush with the parking lot. So every room, unfortunately, does have a lip, so we would be doing some improvements to remove that lip, increasing size of doors. And then, as you noticed, as we were going through the photographs, there is no accessible rooms at this motel. And that's where, when we meet with someone at intake, we would identify if that was a need, and then we would do a placement at another facility, because there are hotels in the area that do provide that level of support and accommodation. So planned improvements, we're looking to improve the room's overall functionality, some counter repairs in the kitchenette areas, creation of the interior space where we can meet with participants, access computers, and just kind of more of a private space to meet with outside third-party agencies. And then improvements to the washroom facilities. So those are the washroom facilities within those 2 rooms. So we've identified some rooms that will be good future projects so that we can have our own accessible spaces on site eventually. All right, I will stop there and open it up to any questions about the project.
So does anyone have any questions or comments for Josh? Claudia.
I'm just not quite sure how that's supposed to work. Let's say you have 22 rooms, as you said, and you have 100 people applying, and after 6 weeks they get kicked out. So it's like a never-ending rotation of people who can't afford rent, because if they can't find housing now because they can't afford rent, if they have a space for 6 weeks, they still won't be able to afford housing. Just a single room on average costs $900. Social assistance doesn't even give a person $900 a month. A person on disability gets $1,308. So I think it's a great project, but I just don't know how you can make it work that it actually improves people's lives for longer than 6 weeks at a time.
Yeah, for sure, Claudia, and through you, Chair. I hear all those concerns. I work in this every single day. I know what people are receiving from OW and ODSP. I know how much rents are out there. We're not claiming that this is the full solution to solve homelessness. It would take 1,000 solutions to solve homelessness, and we understand that it's a multifaceted, complex issue. But this is intended to fill a need that we were servicing. It increases our capacity for short-term emergency stops by 4,000 nights per year. So that means, 4,000 additional nights per year supporting someone to not be homeless and unsheltered. And that was the purpose of the program. I definitely understand what you're saying about the 6 weeks, and it's not an issue that's uncommon to the rest of the province and country. And our only hope is that we can try and connect people with other resources while they're in the program, rent supplements, things like that, and try and move them to long-term housing. Thank you. Thank you for your comments.
I have a follow-up question, if that's okay.
For sure.
It's illegal to kick people out of housing in the winter, right? So what are you going to do then? I mean, I really congratulate you on this project, but you can't kick people out in the winter, right? So if they're in there for 6 weeks and it's January, it's minus 35 out there, how do you tell them to leave? Their 6 weeks are up.
Yeah, so it's not actually illegal to evict somebody in the winter time in this area. That is a landlord-tenant board item that comes into play in some areas. But this is not a landlord-tenant board property. So this is a transitional housing program, which falls outside of landlord-tenant board.
Okay, thank you.
Does anyone else have any comments or questions for Josh?
I could go on and on, sorry.
Okay, go ahead, Claudia.
Is there laundry on site for people?
There
Like laundry machines?
There is not currently laundry for personal items on site. We do the bedding and towels and linens as requested, but there is no current laundry facilities on site.
Okay.
Okay. No other questions? Claudia, did you have another question?
Yes.
Okay.
Since people who don't have housing have so little money, is there a way to have like a person who is responsible for fundraising to, let's say, approach Pampers so they send diapers or female sanitary products so that that's available for free?
Yep. So our staff connect with many different service agency organizations to make sure that we have a stock on hand of supplies. So feminine hygiene products. If we needed to get diapers, we haven't had that need yet, but if we needed to, staff would get those. There is organizations that provide those things that we would connect with and make sure that we get them to people. We have a pantry on site that we can provide some food items to, hygiene products, socks, those types of things.
Okay. I just want to mention that the Flesherton Food Bank always has like clothing and shoes and all kind of stuff like that available too for people who qualify to go to the Flesherton Food Bank. I'm not sure if you're aware of that. There's toys, there's shoes, there's jackets, there's a whole table packed full with clothing. So if people have needs like that, they can go there too.
That's excellent.
Okay, anyone else have any questions or comments?
I have a quick comment.
Sure, Brooke.
Thank you for all the work you've done. Like, this is a great program. I know it's not gonna fix everything, but it's something.
That's great.
Thank you.
Thanks, Brooke. I concur with Brooke as well, and certainly commend the county for the acquisition of the motel You know, I work in the field of social services, and we certainly acknowledge that there's a huge demand for that transitional housing. So, you know, I commend you for that and all the work that you're doing on that, Josh. And thank you for being here today and doing the presentation. We certainly appreciate it. And I will ask for
Through
a
you,
vote.
Madam Chair.
Oh, sorry. Oh, Claudia.
Before you call the question, there's just another hand.
Yes, there's.
Sorry, I missed that.
That's okay. There was an idea that crossed my mind, and that would be there's a lot of elderly living in this area. Their kids have moved out. They live in big houses, and they might need assistance with chores while other people are looking for housing. Maybe there could be a program that subsidizes people renting just a room in other people's houses, like a literal program that would give an incentive for that.
Yeah, no, definitely. Thank you for your comment, Claudia. That programs like that do exist. They're typically referred to as home sharing programs. And there is a couple of organizations across Grey and Bruce County that are looking into home sharing and how that works in terms of matching up potential room renters with people looking for the income or the assistance around the home and the property. So those are things that are commonly explored that we'll continue to keep our eye on and be involved in.
Oh, great. I didn't know. That's wonderful. Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments or questions for Josh? No? Okay. I will ask for a vote on the motion. All in favor?
Yes.
Thanks, Brooke.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Andrew. Okay, motion carried. I see that there is no correspondence. There is correspondence, Sarah?
No, apologies,
okay.
Madam Chair. You are correct. There is no correspondence attached to today's agenda.
And no other business at this time?
I believe Kathy might have something to share.
Oh, there's Kathy. Sorry, Kathy, I missed you there with your hand up.
That's okay. I just wanted to share with everybody that May 26th to June 1st, 2024 is National Accessibility Week. And the theme this year is Forward Together, Accessibility and Inclusion for All. There is going to be something shared by Grey County, not for something that's being hosted by Grey County, but sharing other organizations, events, free of cost and virtual availability for the week. Also, I'm going to put a plug in there for anybody who wants to sign up on the Grey County website. If you slide right down to the bottom, you can subscribe to the newsletter, and accessibility news is one of the things you can subscribe to. And then you will automatically get any little notices like this that might be coming up. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Kathy, for sharing that. Okay. And the next meeting date looks like it's going to be July 18th at 2 o'clock. And I just want to say thank you to everybody. It's great to see everyone, and I hope everyone has a great long weekend.
Same to you. Thank you.
And I'll call for an adjournment then. All in favor of adjourning? Thank you. Okay. All right. Good to see everyone. Take care.
Have a lovely week, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
You too, Claudia.